everyone! Here with my most inspiring take from Sundance. I'm Elizabeth Alfano, host of the TV show, web series, and podcast, The Celebrity Dinner Party with Elizabeth Alfano on WGN Radio. One of my idols took to the festival for a movie about her life. Joan Jett was in the house, people. But what I learned from her in speaking with her and watching her film, Bad Reputation, was so much more than I bargained for. Hold on to your bootstraps. Right after the socials, we'll get into it. As always, to keep up to date with my celebrity interviews, you can subscribe to me on iTunes and YouTube at The Celebrity Dinner Party with Elizabeth Alfano. And check out my YouTube channel, my other one, at Fear No Art with Elizabeth Alfano. Of course, there's always Facebook under my name and Twitter and Instagram at DinnerPartyCHGO. And when in doubt, you can hit up thedinnerparty.tv. Okay, let's get that out of the way and let's talk us some Joan Jett. Okay, so who among us doesn't know and love the song, I Love Rock and Roll? And I didn't include that song in this podcast because iTunes can get finicky. And I didn't want them to ban this podcast because I don't have rights to that song. So I didn't include it. But I know we all know that song, I Love Rock and Roll. I'm obviously not going to sing it for you. Put another dime in the... Okay, so we know that song. Or we know my other favorite song, Crimson and Clover, over and over. I'm not going to sing that either, but of course you know it. So Joan Jett has been around since the 70s. But how much do you really know about her life? Before seeing this film, I knew that it was hard to break into rock and roll for women, and I knew that she had done it, and that she had persevered, and that she's a survivor, and that she doesn't give up. But I didn't know the nitty-gritty. Director Kevin Kerslake does a great job of taking the gobs of information that is her life and all the info on the relationship with her longtime collaborator, Kenny Laguna, and putting it up on the screen in an entertaining and compelling way. And Joan is so authentic. She's such a no BS, no frills person, and it comes through. It comes through just how compassionate she is. And at the same time, she's tough as nails. I learned about how humble and unassuming she is, despite lasting decades in a truly unkind business. I learned about her huge humanitarian side. She is, after all, a vegan, an animal activist, and a big supporter of LGBTQ rights. And she's a fighter. She never gives up. She never quits. Don't tell Joan Jett she can't do something, because you'll be eating your words. Yet, this hard rocker has a sensitive side, and I was amazed to see how decades of fame just hasn't affected her. Her one true love remains her one true love, and that's rock and roll. I love her for this. I love her for her steadfastness, her breaking down the path for women in rock and roll. I love that she stands up for what is right and that she stands up for animals. And I love her for being so reasonable and human. But it hasn't been easy by any means. At various points in the film, Joan reveals that she had her ribs cracked and her head split because people didn't want to see a woman in rock and roll. Just take a minute to process what I just said. I don't know. How much progress have we actually made since the 70s for women in rock and roll? Director Kevin Kerslake talked about the kind of resistance that Joan faced, the timeliness of the film given the women's movement, and just how badass Joan is. Here he is to say it in his own words.
You know, we all, I think we all grow up, men especially, knowing that girls have a harder time at life, and other, minorities have a harder time. But when you actually, as a man, and I even had a sister, and obviously a mother, but you don't really get like the resistance to what they want to do in such graphic detail. So I think that just to clock in on all of the adversity that they face throughout the world, throughout their lives was it's reprehensible that they have to face that sort of adversity.
And you really feel like this film made that apparent to you in a way that wasn't before?
I think just because we drill down a lot into that, and you see certain things on camera, and just her career path, just the fact that she was getting industry resistance and radio airplay. Their policy was to only play one female artist an hour, and all 57 other minutes went to the men. It's just like little details like that are like, wow, and I think that actually is flushed out in the film, yeah, for sure. Well, it's no secret we're living in times where, the women are rising up and the men are rising up for women, and I think that the trends, hopefully, towards gender equality and women's rights, hopefully it takes this time. There's been a couple false starts before, but and I think that when we started the film, we didn't necessarily know that we were going to be coming into a point in time where all of those things were really getting very intense. So, I think that it's the synchronicity there is pretty magical. Joan, from the early days, when she was a little teenage girl, she wanted to plug in an electric guitar, and everybody else, all the singer-songwriter, the women, they were, acoustic guitar. That's basically what you were supposed to do as a girl. And even when she was supposed to, when she went to take lessons, the guitar teacher said, girls aren't supposed to play rock and roll, and he tried to teach her this old crazy folk song, and she's like, I'm not having any of that. So went home, taught herself to play guitar, and here we are. And I think that sort of drive, the independence and the perseverance, to blow through whatever resistance she's up against, that's a signature trait that I feel is a trait that you see now across the world, where women feel empowered to not take no for an answer, and so that's why I think it's important at this point. She's one of many who's blazed a trail for others, but her the one that she did, obviously it's a rock and roll one, so that's right in my wheelhouse.
How is it to work with such a rebel?
Joan's badass. I mean, it's like, she's I just love the street level. She's calm, she, takes no bullshit, and I think that she's got a lot of integrity. So.
Kevin also talked about the challenges of putting the film together.
It's funny. Like when you're dealing with something that's historical in scope, you're obviously dealing with a mountain of material, archival stuff, and also how do you squeeze somebody's life into 90 minutes? So try to honor all of those ups and downs in her life, and tell a compelling story. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. That and time, having enough time to do it.
And Joan, who was seeing the film for the first time at Sundance, got teary-eyed, saying that it was one of the most important moments of her life, along with being included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course.
It is really a surreal experience, to have a movie about your life. I'm very I like to think of myself as a humble person, so it's strange for me to watch something focused on myself.
But I had to ask Joan for myself about the resistance she faced, and if we've really had that much change in rock and roll for women. What kind of resistance did you face early on, and what kind of change do we need now for women in rock and roll?
That I couldn't, I can't play rock and roll. I'm not allowed to play rock and roll. Girls can't play rock and roll. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? You're serious? You must be a slut. You must be a dyke. You must
so
be
belittling you.
Straight to your face. I mean, stuff like that,
Still see this? You don't, but maybe do other young rock and rollers still see it?
It's a good question. I don't know, but I know in 40 years not a lot has changed. You don't see girls on the radio slinging guitars now, but they do exist. They're in every city. There are all-girl rock and roll bands happening, so they're out there. Maybe it's not so much rock and roll anymore, but to a degree, girls are out there DJing, whatever.
What would you tell young girls?
Follow your dreams. Don't let anybody else tell you how to live your life. Except maybe your parents until you're 18, you know?
So there she is, telling it like it is. And it seems that maybe in many ways we still haven't come that far in terms of women and rock and roll. So obviously this movie had me at vegan, but if you want a bit of rock and roll history, or you want to be inspired by a fighter who never gives up and trailblazes to make her own way and beats down a path. Mind you, this is from a woman who is not taller than 5 feet and weighs about 100 pounds. But if you like that kind of ain't no stopping me tood, do yourself a favor and see Bad Reputation. It's sure to make it into theaters, or it might go directly online, and it's something you won't want to miss. Until then, you can subscribe to my iTunes and YouTube channel, The Celebrity Dinner Party with Elizabeth Alfano, and my other YouTube channel, Fear No Art with Elizabeth Alfano. There's Facebook under my name, there's Twitter and Instagram at Dinner Party CHGO, and there's my website, thedinnerparty.tv. The editor on this pod is David Craig. I hope you've subscribed, because there's lots more Sundance news to come. Thanks for listening, and as always, don't forget to be vegan.